So welcome everyone today to our NALP webinar looking at the new Level 5 Diploma for Senior Associate Paralegals. My name is Chantal Cook. Joining us on this webinar is our patron, Amanda Hamilton. Also, Nigel, who looks after all our marketing. Nigel will also be in the background, so if you've got any questions or any problems, then you can message him via the chat as well, and he'll be popping links and things into the chat as we go along that might be useful to you. And our guest today is our academic director, Tom Mortimer, and he'll be talking us through this new Level 5 qualification. So we're going to let you know all about it. What is it? What does it cover? Why should you do it? And that's what we're going to talk about. So welcome, Tom. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So let me just start off. The most obvious question is, why did NALP decide to create a Level 5 qualification? And when we talk about a Level 5, what does that actually mean?
NALP has traditionally always had Level 3, Level 4 and Level 7 qualifications. And what we wanted to do was to create a suite which would enable learners to be able to progress with us from Level 3 or Level 4, which tend to be the entry levels, through Level 5 and then hopefully onto Level 6 and Level 7. So it was to, if you like, to plug that gap that existed in the original suite of qualifications. But coming perhaps to the most important question, what do we actually mean by level? Well, levels really, I think, for our purposes are important for two reasons. Firstly, when you are able to say that you've achieved a particular level of qualification, that is a universal level. So that is a kind of common language that is used in education that everybody within that environment understands. And perhaps even more importantly than within the environment of education, it also is what employers understand. Now, therefore, what does that mean for you as learners? What are our expectations? How is a Level 5 qualification different from a Level 3 or a Level 4 qualification? And essentially, the way that we justify or explain the level that exists for a particular award is the expectations that we have as examiners and as an institution such as the National Association of Licensed Paralegals. So if I can try very briefly to explain what that means in real terms for you as learners. Essentially, I think that the main difference is at Level 3, we are mainly interested in making sure that learners are able to demonstrate that they understand what a particular subject is about. So at Level 3, if you're able to say, for example, when you talk about precedent, that precedent is the idea that judges deliver a decision. Part of that decision, known as the ratio, is binding and it forms a precedent in future cases. That would be what you would be expected to do at Level 3. So it's very much focusing on knowledge. When you then move up to Level 4 and particularly to Level 5, what we start to be looking for more than simply just knowledge, or more, if you like, than simply the what, we are more interested in the way that you understand and can articulate the why and the how. So if I come back to my example of precedent, whereas at Level 3, it's enough to know just what precedent is. At Level 4, we want to know about how precedent works in the Supreme Court, how the practice statement affects the operation of precedent. And then at level 5, in addition to that, we also want you to start demonstrating that you understand some of the arguments and nuances about precedent. So should the practice statement be extended to the Court of Appeal? Given that the Court of Appeal deal with in excess of 20,000 appeals a year, the Supreme Court less than 2,000, why should the practice statement only be relevant to the Supreme Court? So hopefully what you can see from that is that what we are trying to do is to balance up two key elements: what the law is, and then how and why that law could be changed or is important or could be improved. And as you go up the levels, the what takes less of a priority, and the why and the how take greater importance. And the final point, that is then reflected in the marking criteria. So one of the questions I'm often asked is, why did I do really, really well at level 3 or level 4 and get really good results? And then at level 5, my results have dropped. And when you look at people's answers, the reason for that is very often that they did well at 3 and 4 because they were very, very good at the what. But at level 5, we're looking for additional things. We're looking for that why and how. And that's what you need to develop. That's what you need to be able to demonstrate that you understand.
Lovely, thank you. I think that's really important because people do often ask, well, what is the difference? You know, it looks like these qualifications are covering the same subject. So
Yeah,
why have I got to do both? And of course, it's
exactly.
exactly that. It's about the depth of knowledge and about how
Exactly.
you apply that knowledge, just not
Absolutely.
about having the knowledge, so to speak.
Absolutely
So,
that.
on that basis, then, what actually is it? So we understand the difference between the level 4 and the level 5, but let's talk about the actual content. So what
Yep,
subjects will the level 5, or does the level 5, because we're launching it imminently, does
we
the
are.
level 5 cover?
Okay, so just to pick up on this same point about level, the other important element of a level is that the way that we determine which subjects go at which level is also important because it's to do with their complexity. So one of the reasons that we put the subjects we did at level 4, but these new subjects that I will come on to in a sec at level 5, is because these new subjects at level 5 are more complex, more detailed subjects. So what are they? So as with all of our new suite of qualifications, there are 4 units at level 5. And those 4 units are land law and conveyancing. Unit 2 is matrimonial and civil partnership. Unit 3 is public and EU law. And Unit 4 is business law and practice. And if I can use a kind of a crude analogy to illustrate what we're getting at here, the reason that those subjects are at level 5, it's a little bit like an onion. What we're doing at level 3 is we're looking at the onion and we're saying, yes, it's an onion and it's different from a carrot. At level 4, we're peeling away some of those layers and we're looking at subjects that are linked to level 3 but are more complex, more involved than level 3. And what we're then doing at level 5 is pulling away those layers of our onion further, and we're going deeper into the law and deeper in to the complexity of those subjects. And if I can just say one final thing on this, the reason that we also chose those subjects is because as you become more experienced in your practice as a paralegal, the subjects that we have put at level 5 are much more likely to be the areas of specialism that more senior practitioners as paralegals start to engage with.
I think that's a good point, because as we're seeing more and more senior paralegals, in the past, way back, paralegals tended to sort of stay at a certain level, whereas now we're seeing senior paralegals, we've been seeing people, having long careers, getting to very high within their company, or even as partners within law firms.
Exactly.
So I think this qualification is an important one for you in that stepping stone towards having
Absolutely.
a career with real longevity and also a career with real seniority. So that's an important point to make. Thank you. So having talked briefly about what's contained within there, and maybe there'll be some more questions on that we can answer as we go forward, can we just talk about who's eligible for it? Because, can I just jump straight in with a level 5, or do I have to have done a 3 followed by a 4?
Okay. So again, because if we go back to what I said initially about the levels and about the universality of those levels are recognized whether you do plumbing or nursing or law or accountancy. Those levels are standard across the United Kingdom. And what that means is that therefore you can only go in to those levels if you have a lower level qualification that is effectively your entrance or your ticket to be able to get in to the higher one. So what does that mean? What it means is this, that if you do a level 3 qualification and you complete that successfully, that will entitle you to go on to level 4. What is level 4? Level 4 is basically equivalent to the first year of a degree. So if you, for example, had completed the first year of a law or a law-related degree, such as business with law, what you would be able to do is take that level 4 qualification and use that as your entitlement, as your ticket into the level 5 qualification. So to answer Chantal's question, you cannot go directly into level 5. You need a level 4 qualification in order to be able to do that. In the same way that if you do the level 5, that will then entitle you to move forward on to the level 6.
And when you say that you've got to have done, a level 3 or 4 qualification, well, level 3 and then a level 4 necessary into the 5, does it have to be related? I mean, for example, if I've done a first year of a completely unrelated degree, does it still mean that I could move into a level 5 paralegal qualification, or has it got to be related?
Okay, so again, there's two kind of answers to this. If you're at level 3 or level 4, then there is much greater flexibility. When you're starting to move on to a level like level 5, then basically you need to be able to demonstrate, and this goes back to the point I made before about, if you like, the complexity of the subjects at level 5. So therefore, realistically, to get onto the level 5 senior associate paralegal qualification, you would need a related qualification at level 4. And this is not us being difficult. This is simply to enable you to be able to cope and to manage that depth and that complexity that you've already undertaken, in other areas, but not in law related areas.
I think this idea of the levels and how they kind of they match across, if you like, for want
Yep.
of a better expression. I think this
Yep.
is where NALP's off-qual accreditation is so important,
Absolutely.
because you absolutely know a level 4 is a level 4 and a level
Absolutely.
5 is a level 5, and
Absolutely.
therefore, you know, if you've done something else that's related, as we say, it has to be related, and we'll talk a bit more about that, so I can see some questions coming in about that. But if it's related, then you know that you can map it across in that way,
Yep.
which you can't do with qualifications that aren't off-qual accredited in the
Exactly.
same way. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm saying it can't be done in the same way and with the same comfort and certainty, let's
Yep.
say. So I think that's really important to note, that this is the only level 5 qualification for paralegals that has got off-qual accreditation. And just on that note, I know I'm kind of taking over from Tom just for a moment, but on that note, it is also worth noting, when you're thinking about qualifications, that the off-qual accreditation means that these qualifications are externally looked at. And I think that's really important, because, you know, it's all very well, we create the best qualifications that we believe we can create. But if we look at our own qualifications and then tick them off and kind of sign them off, what does that see? That's nobody else checking them for us. Whereas when they're off-qual accredited, you know that there's somebody else on the outside that's checking out NALP and making sure that what we're doing is we're doing it properly. And those, therefore, are qualifications that you can really trust. And I think that's an important
Absolutely.
part of the level 5 as well. So, sorry, that was me just butting
No,
in.
no, no. I mean, if I can just add to that, that also as well, I mean, that's exactly what our quality assurance processes aim to achieve. And you're absolutely right that that is what Ofqual brings to the equation, but it's also what our independent examiners bring to the equation as well, because the examiners are independent and they are the ones who ensure that the level and the robustness and the probity of our qualifications are actually worth something. And that is really important when you come to look for jobs and with employers. You want to be able to show them that you have a credible, recognized, validated qualification.
I like the word validated. I think that's a good word to use when you're thinking about qualifications, because, as you say, presumably you're doing your qualification in order to get a job or a better job, and therefore you want one that is validated, and one that employers are going to look at and go, yeah, if she's passed, or he or she has passed that, then we know they know their stuff and we can put them straight in at this level of job, and so on. So that's great, thank you. Which kind of leads me, I guess, to my last question, although like I said, I can see questions coming in, is kind of, what do you get at the end of this? I mean, I know it's called a diploma. What does that mean exactly?
Okay. Well, a diploma is another way that we use another word that we use in education to recognize, if you like, the seniority of something. So, for example, at level 4, we tend to, and indeed at level 3, we tend to use the word certificate. But at level 5, we use the word diploma. And again, that's a way that you are able to show to a prospective employer that you have a higher qualification, that you have a higher, if you like, a higher certificate. And that's why we use that word diploma. That's essentially what that word means. What you also get, in addition to the diploma, is you get letters after your name, what we rather grandly call post-nominals. What that means in English is, if you complete the level 5 diploma, you will be entitled to put the letters SNR for senior, then A for associate, and then para for paralegal. So you will be the senior associate paralegal. And obviously, we reflect the paralegal bit by putting in the full name of NALP. So that's quite a few letters that you are getting after your name, and a lot more than you get, for example, if you complete a level 6 LLB degree, where you simply get LLB. So there's another value for money element.
And we love letters after our name because it
Oh, we
makes us
do.
look super special. I like it anyway. I'm always impressed when I see that kind of thing. So thank you very much, Tom. I think that covers kind of the overview of the Level 5 Diploma for Senior Associate Paralegals. It is launching on the 1st of August. So if you're interested in doing the course, then what you need to do is go to your preferred centre, and you can see a list of all our centres on the NALP website. It's up to you. They are all superb. So take a look through, see which one kind of works best for you, maybe the location or the way in which they do their learning, whether it's blended or whether it's remote or in person or whatever. Take a look at that, choose the centre that you think works for you, have a chat with them. And then they'll be able to take you through that level 5 diploma right through to the end, to graduation, and getting those wonderful letters at the end of your name. So I'm now going to hand over to Nigel. Please stay where you are, Tom, because you're still on the hook here. But I'm going to hand over to Nigel to take us through some of the questions that have been coming in.
So the first question, I suppose this related to what Tom was talking about the different levels. And so will the response required be reflected in the question wording?
That's a very good question. And the very short answer to that is yes. Basically, at level 4 in your assignments, the word limit is 4,000 words. At level 5, the word limit is 5,000 words. So yes, you do get a greater word allowance, a greater word capacity to be able to allow you to look at those subjects in greater depth. But it really is the depth that we are looking for. And that's what we need to see reflected in that extra word count.
Someone asking about costs and the amount of time they would be expected to commit to this, and then how long they have to complete the qualification.
Yeah, I mean, basically you have 2 years from registration in which to complete the qualification. So, and that applies for each level. The cost, I will need to rely on others.
Actually, I can just jump in there. So the costs are actually set by each of the individual centres, rather than by NALP. So actually, we won't see the actual costs for doing the level 5 on our website. It will depend on which centre you go to. And that, of course, depends on what kind of learning system that they offer, whether it's blended, hybrid, in person, etc. So the information about the level 5, that's on the website. I think Nigel's put a link in the chat for that, so you can jump straight there. And then if it's something that you're interested in doing, then after the 1st of August, that level 5 will be launched, and the centres will be able to then advise you on what they'll be charging and when they'll actually be offering it, whether they're offering it immediately from the 1st of August or whether they're delaying a little bit or whatever. Again, that's up to them, if you see what I mean. So from your point of view as a learner, take a look at our website, check out whether the level 5 feels right for you, whether it's the kind of thing you want to do. Check out obviously your eligibility to make sure that it is a level that you can move into, and then take a look at the list of centres and make your choice from there. Or perhaps talk to 2 or 3, kind of audition them a bit and find out the one that you think is going to work best for you. And they'll be able to then tell you the prices. But as you know, all of NALP's qualifications are very, very affordable. You're not going to be running up huge student debts that you're going to be spending the rest of your life trying to pay off. These are very affordable, and a lot of the centres do also offer payment options as well to make it even easier. And because you can study in your own time, you can hopefully work at the same time, which means you're earning and learning as you go, kind of thing, which also makes it a little bit easier than having to take off a couple of years, with no salary coming in at all, just in order to get your qualification. This way, I said, you can do it evenings, weekends, maybe work a 4-day week, again, whatever fits around your family and lifestyle choices.
Laura wants to know whether there are multiple choice questions for level 5.
Yes is the answer. So again, to reflect the fact that we're focusing more on understanding, the number of MCQs, the proportion of MCQs at level 5 will drop. So at level 5, the multiple choice is worth is worth 40%, and the problem questions, the assignments, is worth 60%. And that again reflects this shift between knowledge, which is essentially what the MCQs are testing, and understanding and application, which is much more what the assignments are testing.
Just to confirm, will you have to have a level 3 or 4 to be able to take the level 5? You have to have a level 4, don't you?
Yes. It doesn't have to be our level 4. So if, for example, you've completed the first year at university, and then your personal circumstances have changed and you're not able to continue at university, that level 4, which is what year 1 at university is, that level 4 qualification, because you do get a certificate in higher education if you successfully complete year 1 at uni, that would make you eligible to come on to the NALP level 5 offering.
Exactly, or full list of examples of what counts as an L4 qualification on the level 5 page. Yeah. If what you've got isn't on there, then please get in contact with us. Email admin@nationalparalegals.co.uk, and we can look at it on an individual basis.
Thank you so much, Nigel, for taking us through those questions. Thank you, Amanda, for being here and joining us. Also, I'm just going to point someone else out. Do you want to wave and say hello, Viv?
Hello.
So this is Viv, who has just joined the NALP team in the last couple of months. So some of you may find yourself dealing with Viv at some point in the future if you're taking the level 5. So it's always nice to see someone's face that you maybe will exchange emails with in the future. So thank you for joining us.
I can see a few names already on here today that I've exchanged emails with already. So it's good to see you. Glad you made it.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. And of course, thank you to Tom for all your expertise and your insight today into the new level 5 for Diploma for Senior Associate Paralegals. As I mentioned, if you're interested in taking that qualification, then head to our website, take a look at what it covers, take a look at the eligibility criteria, and then contact your preferred centre and they'll be able to help you through that. Just be aware that it doesn't launch until the 1st of August. So you've got a little bit of time before actually the centres will be able to talk to you and sign you up. So you've got a couple of weeks to kind of take a look at it yourself, have a think about when you might want to start it, how you're going to fit it in around your life and so on, and what it will mean for you ultimately. As Tom mentioned and Nigel mentioned as well, any questions, if you're not sure, do get in touch and we hopefully will be able to answer them for you. So thank you so much for joining us today. Go out, enjoy the lovely, lovely sunshine, have a wonderful summer, and we hope to see you all back at our next webinar on the 18th of September. Thanks a lot then.